By now, we're all familiar with the term woke, which is a term to describe awareness towards particular social issues. But has our society, specifically public school boards, taken wokeness too far? According to one Ontario family, they have. Joining us to share the story is Hatim Kheir. He's one of the lawyers with the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms Network who was involved in a case to represent this family. Hatim, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So can you share the story of what Matt and Nicole Alexander of Cobden, Ontario have gone through over the last couple of years? And because I hear the backstory actually stems back to something that happened with their teenage son, Josh Alexander?
Well, their son, Josh Alexander, gained some fame or notoriety, depending on how you may want to put it, after he spoke up and organized protests in relation to his school board's handling of gender issues and bathroom policy. Um, the extent to which his situation is connected to what happened to his parents is a little unclear. What we do know is that his parents, Matt and Nicole Alexander, were both fired on the same day in October 2023. And this came following a series of interactions with their school board, their employer. So they had both been put on leave. What happened? Their stories are different, but operate in parallel. Matt Alexander, for him, it started in April of 2023 when he was called in for. He was placed on leave without further explanation. He was eventually called in for an interview. The interview lasted several hours, where he was asked questions on a broad range of topics relating to his connection, real, alleged, or perceived, to a number of individuals, including his son, including other groups with which he has no actual connection with. Um, for Nicole Alexander, in May, she had come to school one day, and she was about to enter her kindergarten classroom that she teaches, and she noticed a pride poster on the door. She hadn't put it there. There was no earlier communication about them being required. So she didn't notice a similar one on any of the doors immediately next to her classroom. So she just took it off and put it in one of the cupboards in her classroom. Later that day, she was called into the office where the principal was waiting with a superintendent, and she was notified that she was being put on leave.
Wow.
Yeah, so that ultimately culminated in their termination fall after they were asked to affirm their commitment to the school board's policies, which is, would otherwise be a reasonable request, except the school board policies included a term that they have to celebrate and affirm certain issues. And in particular, what the Alexanders took issue with was the idea of celebrating and affirming LGBT issues. Both Mr. and Mrs. Alexander are faithful Christians, and have been for their adult lives, and they see that as contrary to biblical sexual morality and teachings on gender, and for them it would be a lie, which is also forbidden by their religion, to affirm something that they don't think is true, and so they requested an accommodation specifically with respect to the requirement to celebrate and affirm. That accommodation was not granted, and they were terminated.
So is it legal for a school to fire teachers for, quote, not celebrating and affirming LGBTQ issues? Because one might assume that public schools of any institution should remain neutral on such issues, given the diversity of thought and culture and diversity of religions we have here in Canada.
So the Education Act in Ontario requires that schools create a safe and welcoming environment with respect to a whole host of demographic issues, religion, sexuality, race, and the Alexanders never took issue with any of that, and were willing and had their entire teaching careers abided by what the Education Act requires. The only portion they required an accommodation to was with respect to where the school board policies went beyond that and required something more positive, a celebrating and affirming actions from them. The Human Rights Code of Ontario, as does the human rights codes of the other provinces, states that employees have a right to be accommodated and not to be discriminated against on the basis of, among other things, their religion. And so that's what the Alexanders were seeking. They were seeking an accommodation just with respect to that so that they could abide by their religious principles. And so the law is that employers have to accommodate their employees up until the point of undue hardship.
Right, and I want to go back to that pride poster that was on Nicole Alexander's classroom door. You're saying that she didn't notice it on any other doors. So, do you or your client believe that this was something targeted, that they were trying to set her up for something, like some kind of gotcha?
We're not in a position to speculate. Essentially, it was on her door. It didn't appear to be on the other, at least the other adjacent doors in that hallway. So she simply removed it and put it away in the classroom.
Now, what's also strange is that neither Matt nor Nicole were actively campaigning against LGBTQ issues. Were there complaints against them, or was there like a history of disciplinary action?
There's no history of disciplinary action. Both Matt and Nicole have pristine records with respect to their teaching history. Uh, Nicole had been teaching for a number of years at that point after she came back to work after taking time to raise her children. And for Matt in particular, he had been teaching for over 20 years at that point with a
Wow.
clean record and was well beloved by his students.
So normally in cases like this, where teachers have a very clean record or a very positive history, in cases like this, the teachers' union would intervene. So what happened?
So their union launched a grievance. Uh, However, the union ultimately decided that they would not be advancing the grievance to arbitration, and so and they were unwilling to take it to arbitration and argue about the charter rights and human rights of Matt and Nicole Alexander. So, in addition to a human rights application that they've brought against their former employer, the school board, they've brought what's called a duty of fair representation application against their union before the Ontario Labour Relations Board. And so that's an application that argues that the union has not discharged its duty of fair representation.
And did the union ever give any reason why they chose against arbitration?
Uh, Not in detail. The union just said that they have reviewed, that they received a legal opinion, and that they have reviewed all the all the factors and made a decision.
So you've touched on some action that's being taken right now. What other options do the Alexanders have right now?
Well, those are the options right now. So the way the law works is that for unionized employees, the union is given carriage of their matter. So it was up to the union to bring an arbitration and to advance this case. And so, given their decision not to do that, the recourse that the Alexanders have is to go to the Ontario Labour Relations Board to seek relief from the as against the union's decision. And then, in addition to that, the Human Rights Code does provide a sort of parallel track, and so they're seeking both options now.
Right, because it does sound like the charter rights of the Alexander family have been violated, but I'm just wondering, like, because what we've seen in the past with other cases, where wokeness is kind of like more infiltrated in our courts, is there any possibility that they could lose?
Litigation is inherently uncertain. There's always a possibility. Certainly, we believe that the facts and the law are on their side, and intend to advance that position before both the Human Rights Tribunal and the Labor Relations Board.
Is the family getting any support from fellow teachers or from students?
Notably, after his suspension, a number of Mr. Alexander's students actually had banded together and written in support of Mr. Alexander, questioning what had happened to their teacher.
Wow. And then what about their son Josh? Was there any justice served for him?
That's somewhat of a separate issue at this point. Josh Alexander has his own representation.
Okay. Do you see any signs of public opinion swaying on these kinds of issues involving wokeness or just awareness of social issues that can sometimes go too far?
It's tough to say. I certainly hope so. These issues were really bubbling up out of the university system as I was passing
Mm-hmm.
through and into professional life. And it seems that there is a sort of um, a life cycle here that's playing out where as it's sort of bubbled out into everyday life as opposed to just behind the walls of academia, and people are actually encountering this in their day-to-day life and they're becoming more aware of it. uh, I hope that there is a turning of public opinion and these things are starting to be tamped down. Time will tell, though.
So do you feel that woke policies are getting to the point where they were originally intended to protect one group, but now they're actually like attacking another group?
Well, what I will say is that the Alexanders are really just asking for the same protections to be applied to them that apply to every other group. The human rights codes across the provinces uh, protect against discrimination on the basis of religion, race, disability, gender, and a number of other issues. And what they've faced in this instance is that they wanted accommodation so that they could abide by their creed. And so they're just asking for that same standard to be applied to them as other groups are entitled to do.
Hatim Kheir is a lawyer with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms Network. Hatim, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.